covering the world of professional wrestling. This is the Signature Spot with Chris Toplack.
3, 2, 1.
Thank you very much for tuning into the latest episode of The Signature Spot with Chris Toplack. It's great to be home. Quite an eventful 3 to 4 days. Snow on the ground. Marijuana is legal. Yeah, a lot transpired in Canada while I was gone in Orlando. In all seriousness, I was in Orlando over the past 4 days, celebrating my 5-year wedding anniversary trip with my lovely wife. Long overdue. It's actually been 5 years since I took a week off of work. Don't try this at home. Take the time to recharge the batteries. I did just that. Visited Disney, a great brewery down there, Universal Studios, man, Simpsons World, Butterbeer. I can't wait to go back. And the highlight of the trip for me, NXT. That's right. Coming up shortly, I will provide you with my full perspective on the NXT Full Sail experience. From the merch, to the reactions, to the surprises, to the spoilers, I'm going to detail it all. 4 weeks worth of tapings I got to witness. I was actually on the camera side. I'll be wearing a red Ricochet shirt, so over the next 4 weeks, perhaps, you will see me. I'm long, I'm a little bit more tanned. Normally, I'm quite pale. It should be pretty easy to spot. So I'm going to be going over that very shortly, but man, that was an absolute blast. New episodes every single Thursday of The Signature Spot. In fact, I got in just about an hour ago. Ran upstairs to my office, turned on the microphone, and I'm ready to go. For those new episodes, youtube.com/The Signature Spot. Subscribe today. ChrisToplack.com, TheReactionRoom.com, TheGorillaPosition.com. A new partner and one of the more credible websites out there when it comes to wrestling journalism. It's not about clickbait. It's about getting it right and telling the proper stories. Go support them. You can also subscribe to the show on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Spreaker, and also podcast apps such as Overcast. If you want to interact with me on social media, I'm really easy to find. My Facebook fan page is The Signature Spot, at Chris Toplack on Twitter, and at Chris Toplack on Instagram. On all three of those platforms, you can see some photos from my NXT Full Sail experience.
Your weekly recap.
Bound for Glory took place this past Sunday, and by all accounts, it was a critical success. I would not rate it higher than Slammiversary, but it was still extremely stellar. Since the new ownership took over and they left the Impact Zone, Impact Wrestling is rolling on all cylinders, easily the best it has been since the mid-2000s. That's when I tuned in religiously. Austin Aries versus Johnny Impact for the Impact World Championship. It was a solid match, and it featured a very odd conclusion. Aries ended up being pinned. He no-sold it. He flipped off the audience. He stormed to the back, and his contract is allegedly up, and he did not appear on the next set of tapings. Now, many are further claiming this incident was completely unscripted. Whether that remains to be true or false, if you wanted to catch some headlines, mission accomplished, not just for the event, but that particular moment and match. Moving over to Raw, some of the standout moments there. Ronda Rousey's promo on the Bella Twins. That was hands down Ronda's best moment behind a microphone. It was outstanding. I want to see more of that. Ronda Rousey fired up is highly entertaining. The way that she ran down Nikki over using John Cena to further her career was, again, incredibly entertaining. I want to see more of that. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose versus Braun Strowman, Drew McIntyre, and Dolph Ziggler. Yet another solid match between these six men. Other than their match at Super Showdown, the chemistry between both of these teams has been simply flawless. And of course, both of the World Cup tournament qualifier matches, very well constructed, and they featured logical outcomes as well. Smackdown 1000, it was a very busy Tuesday for me, but I got to watch this live. Some of the standout moments for me, the return of Evolution. It's been way too long since we heard Line in the Sand from Motorhead. Evolution is easily one of the greatest factions of all time. I said top 5. An argument could be made for top 3, but I would say on anybody's list, they should be top 5. Batista stole the show. Very honest behind the microphone. Many tend to forget he was such a key part of SmackDown in the mid-2000s. And then to Triple H. Love the message there. You've defeated everyone except me. And Randy Orton, staying true to kayfabe as well by being super arrogant. I love the dynamic between those four. It was an outstanding segment. Speaking of another outstanding segment, how about the Cutting Edge? Edge returned, featuring Becky Lynch. In my humble opinion, I stated this on the previous episode of the show, Edge is the greatest wrestler in SmackDown history. But Becky has line of the night. Now, Edge was really trying his best to provide her with some heartfelt advice. Becky had this to say, stop being so condescending and get out of my ring. Be careful not to hurt your neck going through those ropes. Ooh, burn. Not only line of the night, but arguably line of the week. Becky Lynch is on a completely different level than anybody else in the WWE at the moment. She is outstanding. Rey Mysterio versus Shinsuke Nakamura in a World Cup qualifier. An excellent return for Rey. You had the dream team of AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan taking on the Usos, and then also the New Day versus Sheamus and Cesaro for the SmackDown tag titles. Loved both of those matches, although a couple of moments were bizarre to me. No, not the McMahons dancing during Truth TV. Big Show. Yeah, not only was this episode number 1,000 for SmackDown, but also number 1,000 in terms of the heel turn for the Big Show. It just happens all the time, right? Flip-flop, here he is. And then The Undertaker's entrance lasted longer than his promo. He literally came down to close the show and say, at Crown Jewel, DX will rest in peace. Fade to black. Extremely underwhelming, confusing as well. You have one of the greatest superstars in the history of the company, and especially SmackDown, and that's how you use them? Mind-boggling.
The latest industry news and rumors.
While it could be considered a very controversial decision, WWE Crown Jewel will be taking place as expected in Saudi Arabia, at least for now. Now, if you haven't been reading the news or watching the news, here's what's been happening. There has been an alleged murder of a Washington Post reporter by affiliates of the Saudi Arabian government. Now, there will be a full investigation to determine what hasn't happened. Nevertheless, many U.S. entities have put the relationship on hold or just completely said the relationship is over with the Saudi Arabian government, at least for now. And they're actually calling for the WWE to follow their lead. Now, here's why it isn't a good idea to continue with the show. Bad publicity. Creating headlines for all the wrong reasons is not exactly the attention the WWE needs or wants at the moment. Misaligns with their mission, vision, values. That's their core. They care so much about that. They always claim, put a smile on a kid's face. This might not exactly be the way to spin the story here, right? With everything going on. No women allowed. I am fully aware of the fact that they are going to be paying their women, bonusing their women, and providing them with a full pay-per-view. But nevertheless, it still conflicts with their mission, vision, values. If you're not going to allow the women to compete because they're not allowed, why would you accept this deal in the first place? And also, they don't need the money that badly. This is not make or break. The company will not go bankrupt if they say no to the show and this relationship. Yes, they would stand to lose a lot of money, but they could easily make up for it. And again, going back to that bad publicity, all you need is a few major sponsors to say, we're not doing business with you anymore. And then all of a sudden, they start to realize, I regret making this decision and continuing with the show. Now, here's why the show continues. Board of directors. They're happy to continue with it. And also, the WWE is a publicly traded company. People invest their money into stock. And if they just said, you know what, we're going to turn down about $1 billion with this relationship, I'm sure the stock would take a hit and many people would be very unhappy. They actually stand to make roughly $20 to $50 million per show. So again, while I stated they don't need the money that badly, you can imagine that would be a difficult decision to say no to that amount. Also, not wanting to jeopardize the relationship with the Saudi royalty that would inevitably impact future events. They don't want to do it. And again, it's not just $20 to $50 million on the table right now. It's all those future shows that have been promised. And also, perhaps most importantly, the president has not directed them to cancel. This is not a political statement. It's just the fact that the leader of America has not said, you need to cancel this show or else. Now, given Vince's relationship with Donald Trump, I'm sure he would respect that if Donald called him and said, hey, personally, you need to cancel this show. Just not a good idea. I'm almost willing to bet that Vince would not go against that order. So that's why it continues. So I guess we'll see over the next couple of weeks if they pull forward with it or if they don't. The WWE officially announced as of today that there have been 7 new members to join the Performance Center's roster. Now, they actually are in Orlando as of right now. I'm not going to spoil too much, but I may have seen a couple of them at the NXT tapings. So you can actually visit WWE.com to see all 7 signings. The standouts to me, you have Matt Riddle, Mia Yim, Chelsea Green, and Punishment Martinez. If you don't know who Matt Riddle is, he's perhaps one of the most well-known independent wrestlers in the world. He's a former UFC fighter, and again, a very competent one at that. I mean, he has a bunch of no contests for marijuana positive drug tests, which is ridiculous. And he's also a former Evolve Wrestling champion. And again, he has to be the biggest name of the bunch. Now, you may recognize Mia Yim. She competed in the Mae Young Classic both in 2017 and 2018. Chelsea Green, dating Zack Ryder. She was a contestant on the 2015 version of Tough Enough. She's also trained with Lance Storm in the Storm Wrestling Academy. She's a great hand. She was in Impact Wrestling for a couple of years from, I believe, 2016 to 2018. So just recently said, I'm moving on. And then also Punishment Martinez. If you're not familiar with Ring of Honor, that's where he's been for about the past 3 years. He actually even won the TV title several months ago. And he held that for just over 100 days. So some great additions to the Performance Center. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how all of them progress in their careers. Retired Matt Hardy, could it be a possibility? In an interview with Jim Ross, Matt Hardy recently addressed rumors surrounding his retirement. Here's what he had to say. Retirement, that's a big buzzword. People have asked me since I'm at Crossroads where I'm not 100% sure where my in-ring future is at. But as far as my television role on WWE, that will 100% be something in the future. I'm not sure in what capacity exactly, but like retiring is something I will never do. I'm so passionate about this. This is a love of mine, being involved in the wrestling industry. If you can't do it in the capacity you did years and years ago, just be involved in some shape or form. I'll always be involved in some way. Retirement is not something that will be in my future. Again, Matt Hardy backstage is a very creative individual. I would love to see him further his career as an agent or producer. Dick Slater, Richard Van Slater, reportedly died today at age 67. The cause of his death is unknown at this given time. He's best known for his runs in Georgia Championship Wrestling in WCW and perhaps being under the influence and attacking his girlfriend.
Our topic of the week.
NXT Live at Full Sail University is something you need to experience in person if you're a big fan of the brand. This isn't a promo or a commercial. It's $10, and it was easily the highlight for my trip to Orlando. And I got to experience Disney and Universal. And while they're great, especially Universal and the Butterbeer and the Simpsons, it's outrageously expensive. But for $10, there's not a better value or bargain in town than the NXT tapings. 4 weeks worth. There's tons of surprises, lots of action. The crowd is just deafening and they're super passionate, sometimes a little too passionate, but can't fault them for that. And again, 4 weeks worth of television. It actually lasted about 4 hours in length as well, too. Didn't feel that way. You actually wanted it to carry on. So I got to see the 4 weeks ahead of NXT TakeOver War Games 2. Look for me in the red Ricochet shirt. So I want to run down what the experience is like. Again, $10 for general admission. It's amazing. They go on sale several months in advance. It's worth the trip to Orlando just for this. Plan it around NXT. Go visit Universal and some of those other theme parks or whatever else you want to do, but attend NXT. There are several food trucks outside, primely positioned, I may add, and they're really good food trucks. You can actually bring the food into the venue as well. You can park wherever you want. Shows typically start at 6:30. Get in line early. But the good thing is that there's not really a lot of people there. It is deceptively small. You would imagine that not very big on television. Feels only like there's a couple hundred people when you go into the arena, but man, it lights up and it is a full-scale production. So when I was outside at the food trucks, I bumped into Kari Zane. That's right. I actually did the salute, not properly, but she couldn't have been more gracious with her time. I normally never ask wrestlers for photos. She was standing there and I figured, why not? I'm a big fan. And she said, man, I really hope you enjoy the show. She was wearing a DDP yoga shirt, so I made a joke about that, and she laughed. Again, couldn't be more cordial. Many of the wrestlers are always strolling around the campus, so if you're down there, there's a really good opportunity to have your picture taken with them or to see them in person. Don't bring in big bags. My wife learned that the hard way. You can bring in like small bags, but if you have big ones, take them to your car, or in our case, throw them away if they don't cost a lot of money. But again, it's just a really neat experience getting into the arena. Now, I actually invited my wife, Michelle, to join me on the program for the first time ever. Not just this show, but any radio show, any podcast I've ever had. So, in your opinion, what was the most represented piece of merchandise at NXT?
The Undisputed Era.
And anybody else? I saw a ton of Undisputed Era shirts, but who else would you say you saw shirts of there that were represented well?
Johnny Gargano and Velveteen Dream.
Yes. We actually picked up the new Velveteen Dream shirt. It's an ode to the Macho Man Randy Savage. It's the purple. You have like the three glasses, right? You were actually wearing it, I believe, as well, too. So that was a lot of fun. And was the Velveteen Dream even better in person than you imagine? I'm going to talk about him very shortly.
He was amazing.
Yeah, he's pretty good. It sounds like scripted answers, but they're not. She's just very shy. She's very nervous. The first time I've ever had her on the show here. But yes, the Velveteen Dream, in my opinion, stole the show. In terms of seating, again, because they are general admission, you can sit wherever you like. And every seat in the arena is a prime view. I was on the television side. Word to the wise, by the way, and I did not make this mistake. Do not take the seats away from the regulars. They have their prime positions. They truly believe they are a part of the show. Can't fault them for their passion. Sometimes a little bit too loud, but that's okay. I can get over that. I mean, there's a lot of chance to take place throughout the crowd, throughout the evening, but that's fine. It's all part of the live Full Sail experience. So you can sit wherever you like. So right now, if you want to hit timeout, if you don't want spoilers, you can. If you want to continue on, I'm going to run down exactly what transpired during the tapings. So the show started off with a bit of a surprise. It was announced that there was going to be a segment filmed for Up, Up, Down, Down. Xavier Woods showed up, and this is for League of Legends. So it was Team NXT and Team WWE. So representing Team NXT, it was Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, Shayna Baszler, and Dakota Kai. I believe Tyler 1 may have been the name of the pro as well. And then representing the WWE was Tyler Breeze, Ruby Riott, Cesaro, and Seth Rollins, who received a monstrous ovation because nobody expected him to be there. Like, I thought Cesaro got a great ovation. And then Seth Rollins strolled out and people went nuts. That's home. He's the first ever NXT World Champ. So we kind of looked around as if it was a bit of a homecoming, and it was. So they filmed that segment. That's going to be on a future episode of Up, Up, Down, Down. They showed something on the screen that was William Regal interacting with security. He was mentioning that if Aleister Black shows up, get him immediately before he gets into the building. Then they kicked it off with the Undisputed Era. They showed up, received a huge ovation. Again, the audience was just covered in Undisputed Era merch. They must make a fortune from that. So they came out and basically they warned the entire NXT roster. They said, we're going to take everybody out. We already did with the War Raiders. Who's next? And then EC3 came out to chants of NX3. And he challenged Adam Cole, even though Adam Cole disagreed and said, you know what, you don't deserve any shot at that North American title. It's mine. So EC3 ended up defeating Adam Cole in an impromptu match, and that was via roll-up. But unfortunately, it was the Undisputed Era that got the last laugh because there was a big post-match beatdown. In fact, the returning Bobby Fish took a chair to EC3 on stage and just absolutely destroyed his leg. So I'm not sure if this is like an injury angle or an attempt to gain sympathy for EC3, but very interesting. Mia Yim made her debut. You may know her from the Mae Young Classic. She defeated Aaliyah. Cassius Ohno defeated Justin Xavier. Not sure who he was, but then Cassius Ohno during the match vocally said, "This is not what I wanted, William Regal. I wanted competition." Then all of a sudden, Nikki Cross just shows up and she's laughing manically at Ohno, and then she just disappears. And I'm thinking, how does this tie into the show? Then William Regal comes out. Again, huge ovation. I am a massive William Regal fan, so to see him in person was outstanding. And then he is interrupted by Tommaso Ciampa, the world champion, and he ran down William Regal. In fact, he walked right in front of him and held his championship up. And then he gets interrupted by the Velveteen Dream. What a reaction for him. I'm going to talk about him at length a little bit later on. And he says, you know what? He wants to throw his name out there for who is going to be the one to face Tommaso Ciampa at NXT TakeOver. And then another interruption, this time the monster Lars Sullivan. And he claims, you know what? This is not a debate. This is my territory. That title is mine. I'm going to get it. The Velveteen Dream had a great insult. He basically said, if you want to talk to the Velveteen Dream, you better put some pants on, which I thought was hilarious. It had the crowd erupting in laughter. And then Lars Sullivan attacked him. Basically, everybody got out of the ring. Nikki Cross showed up. Here's a big spoiler. Aleister Black shows up from the crowd, knocks out Lars Sullivan with Black Mass, and then Johnny Gargano super kicks Aleister Black. And thunderous boos rained down. So that's right, the man that attacked Aleister Black was none other than Johnny Gargano. If you listened to my previous podcast, Ask the Top, I predicted this. I felt it was clear as day. Johnny Gargano is eventually going to explain, you know what, I'm obsessed with that championship, and I did whatever I had to do to get there. But Aleister Black was confronting William Regal saying, where is he? Where is he? And he was angry, and then boom, happens like that. And with those boos, Gargano basically zips up his hoodie, walks out the building. So it looks like he's the one who did attack Aleister Black, or maybe he's not. I don't know. Street Profits showed up. They defeated the Mighty. And let me tell you, I have said this before, and I will say it again, but Ford is the real star, not only of that tag team, but he might be one of the real breakout stars of NXT. That frog splash is outstanding, and man, he is incredibly athletic. So to see him in person, you really appreciate just how athletic he is. We had a massive debut. Nikki Cross defeating Mercedes Martinez. You may know her from the Mae Young Classic, Shimmer as well. Then, following the victory from Nikki Cross, Candice LeRae came out to confront Nikki Cross because Nikki Cross was the one that had this secret, right? She had this secret that she was holding back, and of course it ended up being Johnny Gargano, or again, so we think, we don't know. Then guess who else showed up? Aleister Black. And he confronted Candice. Now, he mentioned something to her, but again, it was like whispers. There was no microphone. I'm not exactly sure what he said to her, and then left the ring, and that was it. And then another debut, long awaited. So you had, I believe it was Luke Menzies, barely caught his name. Again, I jotted all of this down in Evernote at the event, and it was the King of Bros, Matt Riddle, made his debut. And it was a massive reaction. You could tell he was having an outstanding time. He was all smiles, kicking off his flip-flops. Bro. Crowd was going nuts for him. And man, he is going to be a massive star. He just has that it factor. I can't put my finger on it, but he just has that something in him that tells me he's going to be a big star in this industry. A great tag team matchup. You had Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch. People were chanting 1-2, 1-2 over Mendoza, and I forget the name of his partner. I think it was Roberto Carlello. He is the real breakout star. Man, of the four individuals in that match, Roberto impressed me the most. Incredibly athletic. I was super impressed with that. Then we had the Undisputed Era brawling with the War Raiders outside of the arena. There was tables, there were chairs, there were trash cans. It was a massive brawl. Ricochet showed up. Pete Dunne made the save with the chair. And then William Regal finally announced at War Games it will be the Undisputed Era taking on the team of the War Raiders, Ricochet and Pete Dunne, who all seem to be on the same page. Also another tag team match. Heavy Machinery took on the Forbidden Sons. It was Wesley Blake and Steve Cutler. They emerged victorious. That was a fun match. It was kind of funny how they actually filmed these in different chunks where they had, a bunch of tag team action in a row and then a bunch of female matches in a row. Because up next you had Dakota Kai taking on Tanera Conti. Dakota Kai won. She was selling this hand or wrist injury. She did a fantastic job. Bianca Belair defeated Mia Yim. She has star written all over her too. She knows how to work the audience. Very physical. She has the look. I believe that big things are destined for her on the main roster. Same with Lacey Evans, who emerged victorious over Carissa Rivera. I believe that was her name. I've never really heard much of her before. But Lacey Evans, again, she's a star. She cut a promo basically stating, the women here are embarrassing and disgraceful, and I hold myself to a different standard. In the co-main event, you had Kyle O'Reilly. He defeated Hanson of the War Raiders. He smashed him in the back with the tag title, and again, he made his entrance strumming it like a guitar. It was a lot of fun. That gives his team the advantage at War Games. Again, there was a ton of interference all over the map, but again, it was a lot of fun. And then the main event, Lars Sullivan taking on the Velveteen Dream. He actually ended up defeating him when Tommaso Ciampa distracted the Dream. He was on the top rope. He was ready to land the elbow. Then he jumped off with a double axe handle to the outside, came back in. Sullivan took advantage of it. So I just got to say this. I know it means more coming from John Cena, but I believe the Velveteen Dream could be one of the biggest stars over the next 10 years. He's 22, 23 years old. He has the charisma. He has the look. He has the wrestling abilities. He has that aura around him, that it factor, the gift to gab. He's got it all. The only thing he doesn't have is experience, and yet it still feels like he has a decade worth of experience at 22, 23 years old. It is absolutely remarkable. I don't believe I've ever seen anybody like him in my life. My wife actually posed the question, when was the last time you thought this way about somebody? I couldn't even think of a name, especially over the last couple of years. I mean, I've always been such a fan of, the AJ Styles of the world, or, Seth Rollins was probably about the last one where I looked at him and thought, he's got something big in him. But the Velveteen Dream is going to be a major player in the future. You heard John Cena say it. I always believed it, but after seeing him live and in person, I am a full-blown believer that this guy deserves to be a main eventer at WrestleMania one day. Again, not to set the sights too high here, but he has everything going for him. Lars Sullivan looked outstanding. I think that they're pushing him a little bit too hard, too fast, but you know what? Truth be told, I have to swallow crow on that one. I think that he deserves to be where he is, and Tommaso Ciampa, as the Paranoid Champion, is just playing the part to a T. Now, I actually posted a video on my Facebook page where the Velveteen Dream ended up landing an elbow on Tommaso Ciampa. This was following the taping. Then he held up the championship, and it was a massive pop. If we eliminate Seth Rollins from the equation, I would have to say the biggest pop of the evening went to the Undisputed Era, followed by Aleister Black and the Velveteen dream. If you have not experienced NXT live and in person, you absolutely should, especially if you're in the Orlando area or planning to be. You must attend the tapings at Full Sail University. It was the most fun that I've had in quite some time.
You're listening to The Signature Spot with Chris Toplack.
I sincerely hope that you thoroughly enjoyed hearing about my live NXT Full Sail experience. Anytime that I attend a live pro wrestling event, I'm going to share my perspective on the show on a weekly basis. Now, perhaps next time I'll have some audio or video that I can share with you. I'm always very respectful of what I can and can't do. So they said photos were completely okay. Video and recording of any sort was not. So last thing I wanted to do is be booted out of the arena after I purposely flew thousands of miles to be there. Thank you to my lovely wife, Michelle, who joined me on the program. It was a very brief appearance, but to have her by my side at the show was very memorable because that was her first time seeing NXT live and in person. And she did remark, this was a whole hell of a lot of fun. And she also said, the Velveteen Dream is going to be a massive star, mark my words. So that makes both of us. Next Thursday, there will be a new episode of the program. Hope you'll join me for that one. And happy trails to you until we meet again.
This concludes another episode of The Signature Spot with Chris Toplack. For new episodes, subscribe on YouTube, Stitcher, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, or iTunes. And don't forget to follow The Signature Spot on Facebook for exclusive clips, polls, and opinions.